For decades, the world believed the story of Princess Diana ended in tragedy. Her final wishes were supposedly sealed, filed, and quietly archived within the royal legal system. But just minutes ago, something happened that shattered that belief entirely. On the very day Prince William celebrated another year of life, a discovery surfaced inside the royal estate that no one expected: a document connected to Diana, bearing modifications no one had ever seen. And what William found inside it would shake the monarchy itself. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. What began as a quiet and private royal birthday was never meant to become a moment that would echo across the history of the monarchy. Within the walls of the royal residence, the day had unfolded with the calm familiarity that usually surrounds William's birthday. Close relatives had sent their private messages. Advisors had stepped back, allowing the heir to the throne a rare pause from the relentless weight of public duty. Yet somewhere deep inside the palace's restricted archives, something had begun to move quietly through the machinery of royal record-keeping. It was subtle at first, the kind of small procedural review that takes place every day inside institutions built on centuries of documentation. Royal archivists were conducting what they believed to be a routine review of sealed legal materials connected to past estates. Princess Diana's records, preserved for decades with extreme confidentiality, were among the files examined that morning. At first, nothing seemed unusual. The original testament had been finalized long ago, carefully reviewed by legal teams, and settled through the royal system. But then one archivist noticed something that immediately broke the quiet rhythm of the room. Attached to Diana's estate documentation was an envelope that had never been catalogued in the public summary of her will. It bore a notation that none of them could explain. Written clearly across the seal were words referencing a future moment tied specifically to Prince William's birthday. What made the discovery even more unsettling was the condition of the envelope itself. It showed signs that it had been placed within the archive after Diana's passing, not before. The implication alone was enough to freeze the room in stunned silence. Within minutes, the finding moved beyond the archive and into the hands of palace legal advisors who immediately understood the magnitude of what had surfaced. Diana's testament had long been considered settled history. Every clause, every instruction, every distribution had been studied and documented for years. If a modification existed now, one that had never been publicly disclosed, it meant something within the official narrative surrounding Diana's final wishes had been incomplete all along. The lawyers exchanged uneasy glances as they reviewed the envelope again, each of them aware that even opening it could trigger questions the palace might not be prepared to answer. But the note referencing William's birthday made the decision unavoidable. Whatever the document contained, it appeared to have been intended specifically for him. Word traveled quietly through the palace corridors until it reached the small circle of advisors closest to the prince. Instead of continuing his birthday as planned, William was discreetly asked to meet with senior legal officials. The tone of the request alone told him this was no ordinary matter. When he entered the room, he expected perhaps a briefing, a procedural update, something administrative that had somehow required his presence. Instead, he found a single sealed envelope resting on the table before him. The moment he saw the name written across the front, his mother's name, something inside him shifted instantly. Decades had passed since Diana's voice had last been heard within the living reality of the royal family, yet suddenly her presence seemed to return in the most unexpected way possible. The advisors explained the situation carefully, outlining the discovery, the notation, and the unusual timing that had brought the document to light. William listened quietly, his expression tightening as each detail unfolded. Nothing about the moment felt ordinary anymore. The timing alone was impossible to ignore. Why would a document connected to Diana appear now, on this exact day, with instructions that clearly anticipated a future moment tied directly to his life? Slowly, with the room watching in tense silence, William broke the seal and unfolded the document. The first line he read stopped him completely. It was written in a tone that felt unmistakably personal, unmistakably maternal. It was not legal language or formal instruction. It was a message addressed directly to him. And within those opening words was something that sent a chill through everyone present. The suggestion that Diana had always believed certain truths about the royal family, would one day reveal themselves to her son when the time was right. As the room fell silent, and William realizes this document may contain words his mother intended for him decades later, the next question becomes unavoidable: who changed Diana's testament, and why was it hidden until now? Long before the world began asking questions about Diana's final wishes, she had already begun asking her own. Friends later recalled moments when the princess spoke about protecting her sons in ways no one fully understood at the time. Now, with the modified testament in William's hands, those memories suddenly feel less like reflections and more like warnings she quietly left behind. The discovery resting in Prince William's hands begins to reshape not only what he believed about his mother's legacy, but also what the world thought it knew about the final years of Princess Diana's life. For decades, her story had been framed through grief and tragedy, as though the chapter ended abruptly and left no further messages behind. Yet the document William now holds suggests something far more deliberate. It hints at a woman who was not merely reacting to the pressures around her, but quietly preparing for a future she believed her sons would eventually face. The idea that Diana had been thinking this far ahead begins to ripple through the palace with unsettling weight. Those who knew her most closely had always described her as intuitive, almost uncannily aware of emotional currents moving beneath the surface of royal life. But now those instincts appear to have been paired with something even more powerful: foresight. In the final years before her death, Diana's relationship with the royal establishment had grown increasingly complicated. Publicly, she remained one of the most beloved figures in the world, admired for her compassion and humanitarian work. Privately, however, those closest to her would later describe a growing caution within her. Diana had learned the inner workings of palace systems in ways few outsiders ever could. She understood how decisions were made, how reputations were protected, and how narratives were shaped behind closed doors. That knowledge had not hardened her, but it had made her careful, especially when it came to the future of her sons. William and Harry were not simply her children. They were the next generation of a family bound by duty, expectation, and centuries of tradition. Diana knew that the pressures awaiting them would be unlike anything most people could imagine. Friends would later recall private conversations that, at the time, seemed philosophical or reflective. Diana spoke often about legacy, not in terms of wealth or status, but in terms of protection. She worried about how the system around the monarchy might affect her sons as they grew older. She wanted them to remain compassionate, grounded, and capable of thinking for themselves even as the crown placed enormous expectations on their shoulders. Some of those friends remembered her mentioning legal matters, hinting that she was considering ways to ensure her voice could still reach William and Harry, even if she were no longer there to guide them directly. At the time, those remarks were interpreted as the natural concern of a mother navigating an uncertain chapter of her life. But now, with the testament sitting before William decades later, those conversations suddenly carry a different meaning. There was also one figure who, according to fragments of testimony quietly circulating within royal legal circles, may have known more than anyone realized. A legal advisor who worked closely with Diana during the final stages of preparing her estate had reportedly received instructions that were never publicly detailed in the official summaries of her will. The instructions were said to be unusual, not because they involved money or property, but because they involved timing. Diana had allegedly asked whether certain documents could remain sealed until a future moment connected to William's life. At the time, the request seemed symbolic, perhaps even sentimental. But if the testament William has now discovered is connected to those instructions, then Diana may have been planning something far more intricate than anyone imagined. The concept of a future activation document begins to make unsettling sense. Diana was not preparing a message for the immediate aftermath, though, for her life. She was preparing something meant to surface years later, when her eldest son had reached a point where he could understand it fully. That possibility casts the reference to William's birthday in an entirely new light. The date suddenly feels intentional, almost ceremonial. It suggests Diana may have chosen that moment because it marked more than just another year of life. It marked maturity. It marked readiness. It marked the moment when a son might finally be prepared to hear truths that would have been impossible to grasp as a child. The idea that Diana could have anticipated such a distant moment feels almost extraordinary. Yet those who knew her best often spoke of her instinct for timing. She understood symbolism in a way that resonated deeply with the public, and perhaps she understood its importance within her own family as well. A birthday, after all, is not just a celebration. It is a reminder of beginnings, of identity, of the bond between parent and child. If Diana intended for this testament to appear on William's birthday, then the gesture was not accidental. It was deeply personal, a mother choosing a moment that would remind her son that even across time, her voice was still reaching him. Now, as William continues reading the document in silence, that realization begins to settle heavily across the room. What once seemed like fragments of memory, Diana's quiet conversations, her careful legal planning, her protective instincts are starting to align into something far more deliberate. It suggests that long before the world began analyzing her legacy, Diana had already begun shaping it herself. And the most unsettling part is that this testament may only be the first piece of a larger plan she quietly set in motion years ago. But while Diana may have prepared the testament years earlier, the true mystery isn't just what she wrote. It's why somehow ne'er altered or updated the document long after her death. When royal legal experts began examining the document more closely, something immediately stood out. The handwriting matched Diana's, but not all of it. Parts of the testament appeared to have been amended years later, in ink that forensic specialists would quickly identify as far newer than the original pages. Suddenly, this wasn't just Diana's message to William. It was something far more complicated. The quiet shock that had filled the room when William first opened the document now deepens into something heavier, something closer to unease. What initially appeared to be a preserved message from Diana has now transformed into a puzzle layered with unanswered questions. The legal advisors gathered around the table begin examining the pages again with far greater scrutiny. At first glance, the flowing handwriting feels unmistakably familiar. Diana's voice, her tone, the warmth in the phrasing, it all aligns with the personal style people remember from her letters. But the more closely the experts study the document, the more unsettling the inconsistencies become. Some portions of the text appear slightly darker, the ink sitting differently on the page. Certain annotations sit in the margins with a firmness that feels separate from the softer strokes of the original writing. And slowly, piece by piece, a realization begins to take hold. This testament did not remain untouched after Diana wrote it. Forensic specialists are quietly called into the conversation, their roles subtle but critical. They examine the document with the calm precision of professionals trained to read history through the smallest physical details. Ink composition, paper aging, pressure patterns within the handwriting, these elements tell stories that words alone cannot hide. And what those details reveal sends a ripple through the room. Parts of the testament were written decades ago, exactly as expected. But other sections were added much later, not immediately after Diana's passing, not even within the same era. The chemical makeup of the ink suggests the additions occurred years, perhaps many years after the original document was created. That single discovery transforms the situation entirely. This is no longer simply about what Diana wrote. It is about who touched the document afterward. Someone had access to the testament long after it had been sealed within the Royal Estate Archive. Someone had read Diana's words and decided to add something of their own. The implications alone are enough to make the palace legal team pause before speaking further. Royal archives are among the most secure systems within the monarchy. Access is limited to a tightly controlled circle of individuals whose responsibilities revolve around preserving the integrity of the crown's history. If this document was altered, it means the person responsible was not an outsider. It was someone inside the system. The advisors exchange careful glances as this realization settles in. No one wants to say the obvious conclusion out loud. The monarchy operates on trust layers of it, built over generations of tradition and guarded secrecy. Yet the altered handwriting now sitting in front of them suggests that someone within that trusted circle may have acted as a silent custodian of Diana's wishes, or perhaps something else entirely. The annotations themselves are not random, they are deliberate. Short sentences appear in the margins, clarifying certain lines of the original testament. In one place, a paragraph seems to have been expanded, as though someone felt compelled to emphasize a particular idea Diana had expressed. The tone of these editions is careful, almost respectful, but it is undeniably different from Diana's voice. William continues reading silently, his expression growing increasingly tense as his eyes move from one page to the next. At certain moments he pauses, as though absorbing words that carry far more meaning than anyone else in the room can fully grasp. The advisors notice the shift in his posture immediately. Something within the added passages is affecting him deeply. When he reaches one particular annotation, written beside a section of Diana's original message, he stops altogether. The line is short, but it carries a weight that seems to settle heavily over the room. It reads like a warning. The words refer cryptically to events within the family that will one day test the crown. No names are mentioned, no dates are provided. Yet the tone suggests that whoever added the line believed those events were not hypothetical. They were expected. The question now becomes impossible to ignore. Who wrote that warning, and how could they have known enough to place it beside Diana's original words? The location of the testament inside the royal archive makes the mystery even more unsettling. Only a very small number of individuals would have ever been able to retrieve the document without raising alarms. Senior legal custodians, trusted archivists, perhaps a handful of figures whose responsibilities tied them directly to the preservation of royal estate records. The possibilities narrow quickly, yet none of the names that quietly pass through the advisors' minds feel easy to confront. If someone truly acted as the guardian of Diana's message, then they have remained silent for decades. William turns another page, his focus sharpening as he studies each line with greater intensity. What began as a discovery tied to his birthday has now become something far more personal and far more mysterious. The document is no longer simply a reflection of the past. It is beginning to feel like a conversation stretching across time, one that includes not only Diana's voice, but also the presence of someone else who believed her message needed to survive long enough to reach this moment. And as William continues reading the testament line by line, he begins realizing that the document doesn't just reflect the past, it may be predicting the royal family's future. For years, Prince William carried memories of his mother that the world believed were frozen in time. But inside the modified testament, Diana's voice suddenly feels alive again. The message she left is not political, not ceremonial, but intensely personal. It reads like a mother speaking across decades, preparing our son for something she believed he would eventually face. As William continues reading the pages that have quietly waited for him across the span of years, the atmosphere in the room begins to shift from curiosity into something far more emotional. The words unfolding before him are not framed like a legal statement or a formal royal directive. They are intimate, personal, written with a softness that immediately separates them from the structured language surrounding the rest of the document. Diana's voice emerges through every sentence in a way that feels unmistakable. Not the voice the public remembers from speeches or interviews, but the voice of a mother speaking directly to her son. For a moment, the decades between them seem to collapse entirely. The boy who lost his mother in one of the most devastating moments in modern royal history now sits face to face with words she clearly intended only for him. The letter begins simply, without grand declarations or dramatic introduction. Diana addresses him by name, not as a prince, not as a future king, but as her son. The tone is warm, almost protective, as though she knew that the world he would grow into would demand strength long before he was ready. She writes about the burdens of leadership, acknowledging that one day William will inherit responsibilities that no ordinary life could prepare someone for. But her message is not focused on the crown itself. Instead, she speaks about the weight behind it, the moral choices, the quiet sacrifices, and the moments when leadership will feel lonely even in a room full of advisors. She reminds him that the power surrounding the monarchy has meaning only if it is used with humanity. Without compassion, she warns, the crown becomes nothing more than tradition without purpose. The deeper William reads, the more it becomes clear that Diana was not writing from a place of earnest about the royal institution. Instead, she writes with a kind of careful honesty that feels almost prophetic. She acknowledges that royal life is built on systems that have existed for centuries, systems designed to protect the continuity of the crown. But within those systems, she warns, there will always be individuals whose motivations may not align with the values William hopes to carry forward. Her words do not accuse anyone directly. They do not point fingers or reveal secrets outright. Yet the implication is unmistakable. Diana is cautioning her son that trust within royal circles must always be earned carefully. That warning lingers heavily between the lines of the letter. Diana explains that as William grows into his role, he will encounter moments where tradition, loyalty, and personal belief may collide. Advisors will offer guidance, institutions will expect obedience, public expectations will demand strength. But in those moments, she urges him to listen not to the noise surrounding him, but to the quiet instincts he carries within himself. The compassion she tried to teach him as a child, she writes, must never disappear beneath royal protocol. If the monarchy is to remain meaningful to the people it represents, it must be led by someone who remembers that power exists to serve others, not to distance itself from them. The letter then shifts towards something even more personal. Diana speaks about the future that William may one day build for himself, about the family he might create, and the children who could inherit not only his title, but also the emotional weight of royal life. She writes about the importance of protecting them from the pressures that once surrounded her own life, not by isolating them from responsibility, but by giving them the freedom to understand their humanity first. Diana emphasizes that the next generation must grow up knowing that love and kindness are not weaknesses within royal leadership. They are its greatest strength. As William continues reading, the emotional intensity of the message deepens further. Diana's words begin to take on the tone of someone who understood that time might prevent her from guiding him personally. Instead of speaking about specific events or decisions, she speaks about truth, the truth of family, the truth of history, the truth that sometimes remains hidden beneath layers of tradition and silence. And then, near the end of the letter, she writes a final sentence that causes William to pause completely. The words are simple, but they carry an unmistakable gravity. She tells him that the truth of their family will one day come to him, not through rumor or speculation, but through moments when he is ready to see it clearly. And when that time arrives, she hopes he will face it with courage. The room remains silent as William reaches the end of the page, the weight of his mother's voice lingering in every line he has just read. It is not merely a message from the past. It feels like guidance written for a moment that is still unfolding. Yet just as the emotional intensity of the letter seems to settle, William's eyes move toward the next page of the testament. And there, waiting beyond the closing words of his mother's message, lies something no one in the room expected. But just when William believes he has reached the end of his mother's message, he turns the page and discovers something even more startling. Buried beneath the emotional message lies a legal clause, so unexpected that even experienced royal lawyers pause before reading it aloud. It isn't simply a statement of affection or advice, it's a directive, a condition Diana placed on her estate that could influence decisions within the royal family decades after her passing. The moment William turns the page, the atmosphere in the room shifts again, this time from emotion into pure tension. What sits before him is no longer written in the soft tone of a mother's private letter. The language becomes more deliberate, measured, unmistakably legal in its construction. Even the arrangement of the text feels different, as though the document itself is signaling that something important begins here. The heading at the top of the page is short, but it carries an unmistakable gravity. For William, when the time arrives, the words seem almost ceremonial, like a seal meant to mark a turning point. For the advisors gathered around him, that single line alone is enough to confirm that this portion of the testament was never meant to be opened casually. It was meant for a moment, a precise moment, and the unsettling realization spreading across the room is that the moment Diana anticipated may have just arrived. As William begins reading the clause, the meaning unfolds slowly, almost carefully, as though Diana understood that the implications of her words would echo far beyond the day they were discovered. The directive does not refer to money, property, or personal inheritance. Instead, it speaks about responsibility, about the role William will eventually play within the royal institution itself. Diana writes about the future of the monarchy in terms that feel both hopeful and cautious. She acknowledges the power of tradition, but warns that tradition alone cannot sustain the crown forever. The institution must evolve, she writes, guided by compassion and honesty rather than rigid loyalty to old systems. And within that evolution, she expresses a belief that William will one day stand at the center of decisions capable of shaping the monarchy's path forward. The deeper William reads into the clause, the clearer it becomes that Diana was not merely offering guidance. She was establishing a kind of safeguard, a protective measure designed to preserve the values she believed the monarchy must embrace if it is to survive the pressures of a changing world. The directive encourages William to use whatever influence he possesses to ensure that empathy remains central to royal leadership. Diana's language suggests that power inside the royal family should never distance itself from the people it represents. Instead, she insists that the crown must reflect the humanity of those who carry its weight. For the legal advisors observing this moment, the implications are staggering. Diana's clause does not challenge the authority of the monarchy directly, but it places William in a uniquely symbolic position. It frames him not only as an heir to the throne, but also as a guardian of the principles she believed were essential to the institution's future. The clause even hints that circumstances may arise when William must make decisions that place him at odds with established expectations. When that moment arrives, Diana writes, he must remember that leadership is not defined by obedience alone, it is defined by courage. The lawyers exchange quiet looks as the significance of those words sinks in. The question forming among them is unavoidable. Does this clause carry any legal authority at all? Technically, Diana's estate had been settled years ago. Every provision of her will have been reviewed through the formal channels of royal legal procedure. Yet this document appears to exist outside those traditional boundaries. If the clause was deliberately sealed to be revealed at a later time, it raises the possibility that Diana intended it to function not as a conventional legal command, but as a moral directive, something powerful enough to influence decisions without ever needing formal enforcement. William continues reading, his expression tightening as the weight of the message settles around him. He understands immediately that the clause is not about power in the traditional sense. It is about responsibility not only to the crown, but to the legacy his mother left behind. Diana's words suggest that she believed the future of the monarchy would eventually reach a crossroads, a moment when choices would have to be made between protecting tradition and protecting truth. And in that moment, she trusted that William would remember the lessons she tried to teach him. By the time he reaches the final line of the clause, the silence inside the room has grown almost overwhelming. The advisors know that what William has just read will not remain confined to this small circle forever. Documents like this have a way of moving through royal systems quietly at first, carried in whispers between lawyers, archivists, and senior advisors. Already the first murmurs of the discovery are beginning to travel through the palace, spreading curiosity and unease among those who understand just how unusual Diana's directive truly is. And as whispers about the testament begin spreading quietly through palace corridors, another question begins emerging: who ensured that Diana's final message survived long enough to reach William today? Documents like this don't survive decades by accident. Somewhere along the way, someone protected Diana's testament, guarding it quietly, through years of royal transitions and shifting alliances. Whoever that person was, they understood exactly when the document needed to resurface. As the weight of Diana's clause settles into the room, another realization begins to form, one that feels almost as startling as the words themselves. The testament did not simply appear. It did not emerge by chance from a forgotten drawer or an overlooked file. For something this significant to remain hidden for decades, preserved in perfect condition, someone had to protect it. Someone had to know where it was, understand its importance, and ensure that it remained untouched until the precise moment Diana had intended. And within the machinery of the monarchy, where documents pass through countless hands over the course of years, that kind of protection requires more than coincidence. It requires intention. The Royal Archive, where the testament had been stored, is one of the most restricted spaces within the entire institution. Access to it is tightly controlled, limited to a small circle of archivists and legal custodians entrusted with preserving the private records of the Crown. These are individuals who spend their lives quietly safeguarding history, sorting through centuries of correspondence, legal instructions, and confidential documents that shape the monarchy's inner workings. Yet even among them, certain materials remain sealed under special instructions. Diana's estate records had long been categorized among those protected files. Their contents were known, their summaries catalogued, but their deeper layers rarely examined without cause, which means the testament William now holds could not have survived unnoticed unless someone deliberately ensured it remained exactly where Diana wanted it. Over the years, one name has occasionally surfaced in quiet conversations among royal legal circles, a long-serving legal advisor who had worked closely with Diana during the final stages of preparing her estate. Unlike many of the palace officials who rotate through royal duties over time, this individual remained in the background for decades, maintaining a quiet but consistent presence within the legal structure surrounding royal matters. According to fragments of recollection shared privately by those who worked alongside him, he once hinted that Diana had left instructions that extended and the formal version of her will. Instructions that were not meant for immediate execution, but for preservation. At the time, the comment attracted little attention. Royal estates often involve complicated legal structures designed to manage property and inheritance over time. But now, with the testament appearing exactly when Diana seemed to anticipate it, those old remarks take on an entirely different meaning. What makes the situation even more intriguing is the timing. The document resurfaced on William's birthday, precisely the moment referenced in the note attached to the envelope. Decades earlier, for those inside the palace who understand the careful orchestration behind royal archives, such timing feels almost impossible to dismiss as coincidence. Someone knew that this date mattered. Someone understood that the instructions tied to the testament had finally reached the moment Diana predicted, and somehow, quietly and without public attention, the process of revealing it had been set in motion. Archivists later explained that the vault review that morning had not been spontaneous. A request had been logged within the archive system, instructing staff to conduct a routine examination of several sealed estate files, including Diana's. The request carried the necessary authorization codes, meaning it had passed through official channels. Yet the identity behind the authorization remains unclear even to those who processed it. Within royal institutions, many procedures are designed to function smoothly without revealing the individuals behind each step. In most circumstances, that anonymity is simply part of the system's efficiency, but in this case, it deepens the mystery even further. Whoever triggered the review knew exactly which document would be discovered. For William, the realization that someone protected his mother's message carries a profound emotional weight. It means that Diana's voice was not lost in the years following her death. Someone ensured it remained alive within the quiet machinery of the monarchy. Someone honored her wishes with patience and discipline, guarding a message that would only make sense decades later when her son was ready to receive it. That knowledge shifts the moment from mere discovery into something far more meaningful. The testament is not just a relic of the past, it is evidence that Diana's intentions continued moving quietly through the royal system long after her life ended, yet the identity of the guardian remains hidden within layers of royal discretion. Perhaps it was a lawyer who understood Diana's fears and chose to protect her words. Perhaps it was an archivist who followed instructions without ever fully knowing their significance. Or perhaps it was a small group of individuals who shared a silent agreement that the document must survive untouched until the exact day it was meant to surface. The truth may never be revealed publicly, but the result is undeniable. Diana's message reached William exactly when she intended, yet even as the mystery of the testament's guardian begins to unfold, the most explosive question still remains unanswered. What does this discovery mean for the future of the monarchy itself? Within hours of the discovery, conversations behind palace walls take on an entirely different tone. The testament isn't just a personal message, it contains ideas about the monarchy that could influence how the institution evolves in the years ahead. What began as a private moment between a son and the written voice of his mother now starts to ripple outward into the inner structure of the royal institution itself. Inside the palace, senior advisors gather quietly, their conversations no longer centered on whether the document is authentic, but on what its meaning might be. The testament is studied again, this time not only for the emotion it carries, but for the implications hidden within its language. For those who understand how the monarchy functions behind closed doors, Diana's words represent something rare, an idea powerful enough to influence the direction of the crown without ever formally challenging it. Royal advisors begin carefully analyzing the document, line by line, searching for meaning beneath the surface of Diana's message. They are not only lawyers and archivists now, but strategists and historians as well. The monarchy has always been built upon continuity, a delicate balance between preserving centuries of tradition and adapting to the expectations of a modern world. Diana, even during her lifetime, was widely seen as a symbol of change within that system. She brought warmth and humanity to an institution often perceived as distant. Now, decades later, her testament suggests that she understood the monarchy's future might eventually require more than ceremonial adjustments. It might require leadership capable of bridging two worlds, the weight of royal tradition and the emotional connection the public expects from those who wear the crown. The more advisors examine Diana's directive, the clearer it becomes that she may have anticipated a shift in royal leadership long before anyone else openly discussed it. Her message to William frames him not merely as an heir to authority, but as a kind of bridge between eras. Diana seems to recognize that William's generation will inherit a monarchy very different from the one she entered when she married into the royal family. The world has changed. Public expectations have changed, and within that transformation, Diana appears to place extraordinary faith in William's ability to guide the institution forward without losing its soul. For William himself, the emotional impact of the testament continues to deepen with every moment that passes. What he initially believed to be a personal message from his mother has slowly revealed itself as something larger, a reflection of the hopes she carried for both her son and the monarchy he will one day lead. The discovery reshapes his understanding of Diana's intentions during the final years of her life. Rather than simply reacting to the struggles surrounding her, she may have been quietly preparing for the future that awaited her children. That realization brings a complicated mix of comfort and responsibility. Comfort, because her voice has found its way back to him across decades. Responsibility, because the words she left behind now carry a weight he cannot ignore. Within the royal family itself, the implications of the testament begin to settle into the background of ongoing conversations. Documents like this rarely remain confined to a single room for long. As advisors discuss its meaning, questions inevitably arise about how Diana's message might influence relationships within the family moving forward. The monarchy is not just an institution, it is a family bound by loyalty, history, and sometimes tension. A document that speaks so directly about the future of leadership could subtly reshape how certain members of that family view William's role. Some may see it as affirmation of his path. Others may quietly wonder whether Diana's words carry expectations that reach beyond tradition. Yet as the deeper meaning of the testament unfolds, a broader realization begins to emerge among those studying it. Diana's message does not read like a challenge to the monarchy. It reads like guidance. She does not call for rebellion against royal systems, nor does she dismiss the value of the crown itself. Instead, she speaks about evolution, about preserving the institution by allowing it to grow. Her words suggest that the monarchy's survival depends not on resisting change, but on embracing leaders who understand the emotional bond between the crown and the people it serves. That realization transforms the document from a relic of the past into something far more powerful, a quiet blueprint for the monarchy's future. Diana may no longer be physically present within the royal family, but through the testament she has left behind a perspective that continues to influence the very institution she once stood within. And now, with William holding those words in his hands, the responsibility she entrusted to him becomes impossible to ignore. And as William closes the testament and reflects on everything he has just read, he understands that the discovery isn't simply about the past, it's about the path forward. For years, the world has spoken about Diana's legacy as something preserved in memory. But in this moment, inside a quiet room filled with royal documents, Prince William experiences something different entirely. It isn't memory he's reading, it's guidance. Words written by his mother that somehow found their way back to him exactly when he needed them most. As the final pages of the testament rest in William's hands, the atmosphere around him grows quieter than it has been since the discovery began. The advisors who had studied every line, debated every implication, and weighed every possible consequence now step back, almost instinctively understanding that the last part of this moment belongs only to him. The document that once felt like a mystery, an unexpected artifact emerging from the depths of royal archives, has transformed into something deeply personal. What began as a legal curiosity has become a bridge between past and present, between a mother who once walked the corridors of the palace and a son who must now carry forward the legacy she left behind. William reaches the final page slowly, as though aware that the moment he finishes reading, something significant will settle permanently in his mind. The closing section is far simpler than the directives and warnings that appeared earlier in the document. There are no legal clauses here, no instructions meant for advisors or institutions. Instead, Diana's voice returns to the tone that defined the heart of the testament, a mother speaking directly to her child. The final message she left behind is brief, almost gentle in its simplicity. She reminds William that no matter how complicated the world around him becomes, the foundation of every decision must be rooted in two things: love and truth. Power, tradition, and duty may surround the crown, she writes, but they must never outweigh the human values that give leadership its meaning. For William, the words carry a weight that reaches far beyond the document itself. They arrive on a day already filled with symbolic meaning, his birthday, a moment that quietly marks the passage of time and the responsibilities that grow with each passing year. To receive this message on that very day feels almost deliberate, as though Diana somehow understood that birthdays are not simply celebrations, but reminders of identity and purpose. In that sense, the timing of the discovery becomes part of the message itself. The testament did not appear randomly. It arrived at a moment when William stands firmly between the life he once lived as a young prince and the future he will one day inherit as king. As he reads those final lines, William's thoughts seem to drift through decades of memory, moments of childhood, the echoes of his mother's voice, the lessons she tried to teach him about compassion and courage. The testament does not erase the years that separated them, but it reconnects something that time had slowly turned into memory alone. For the first time since the discovery began, the significance of the document feels less like a mystery and more like a continuation of a conversation that never truly ended. In the hours that follow, the testament will undoubtedly be discussed in careful circles within the palace. Lawyers will examine its language, advisors will consider its implications. Historians may one day debate its meaning, yet for William, the most powerful part of the discovery has already taken place. It was not the hidden clause or the mysterious amendments that changed him in that moment. It was the quiet reassurance written in his mother's own words that the path ahead, no matter how uncertain, can always be guided by compassion. The deeper message of the testament begins to reveal itself as William closes the final page. Diana's influence was never confined to the years she spent within the royal family. It lives in the values she carried, the example she set, and now in the words she deliberately preserved for the future. Through this document, her voice continues to shape the conversation about what the monarchy can become, an institution that honors tradition while remembering the humanity at its heart. And although the world may never know every detail contained within Diana's modified testament, one truth has become impossible to ignore: the story she began decades ago may still be unfolding today. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.